Hello, and thank you for joining me today for our session on managing multiple healthcare facilities. Our topic is integration, security, and compliance. My name is Linda Pinion, and I'll be your host today. As we look at our agenda, we can see that there are some key areas that we want to talk about today. The first one being integration and understanding what our best-in-class application is and why that's important to you. Secondly, we want to look at security and permissions, and this goes across the entire footprint of our solution. We'll take a look at where we are with compliance and how important that is in the healthcare world, and we'll do a little look at the solution before we wrap up with some key takeaways. The first thing that I want to start out with is making sure that you understand our solution is different than perhaps other solutions that you have looked at and evaluated. We are a best-in-class model, and what that means to you is that every area of your business gets to choose the best solution for that area. In many healthcare organizations, you see that they are currently using solutions to do activities around billing, perhaps billing to insurance companies, Medicare, Medicaid. They're also in many facilities using a clinical solution. Some of those are ones that they have used for a number of years, and in all cases, many of these applications are ones that are doing the job, doing a great job, and our healthcare organizations want to keep those solutions in place. So one of the things that's really attractive about a best-in-class model is the fact that you can still have those other best-in-class applications, and you can protect your investment that you've made in those applications. What we do at Sage Intacct is financial management. That is our best-in-class. That's what we do best. And because of that, we align ourselves with other best-in-class applications to provide you with the best solution end to end. The diagram that you're looking at is just an example of what that solution architecture might look like. If you see in the middle the Sage Intacct, that is that strong financial engine that Sage Intacct is going to provide. Around the perimeter, you see examples of other best-in-class applications that are going to integrate into that financial engine. So you might have something that's managing your requisitioning process or your payable process. You may be using a payroll company. You may be outsourcing your payroll to one of several payroll solutions. You also may have, as I mentioned, some AR billing solutions, perhaps something that you've used, again, for a while that meets the criteria that you need for billing. And there may be others that you're using for different solutions within your organization. The takeaway here is that Sage Intacct was architected specifically to be that financial management solution that would integrate with these other best-in-class applications. So our architecture is open. It's easy for those integrations to be connected into us. This is really what we do and what we do best, and we've been doing it now since 1999. So when you think about what solution you're looking for from a financial management solution, you want that solution to be strong and to be able to carry all of the transactions from those other applications as well. And Sage Intacct is the only solution that provides that automation, visibility, and integration to the other best-in-class models. When you think about security and permissions, of course, everyone knows, even on a personal level, that we are passworded to death today. We have logins, we have passcodes, passwords, we have structures where we are changing those permissions on a regular basis. We too have user permissions in Sage Intacct, and we're very sensitive to making sure that your information is secure, that your users are going where they need to go, and making sure that they have access to the information that they should have access to. So our users are permissioned, our reporting and our dashboards also have permissions, and then there's some additional permissions and security that we'll look at in the company configuration. If you're in the healthcare arena, there's 3 questions that you should ask. These 3 questions here on the screen: can I store, process, or transmit protected health information, better known as PHI? Will the provider sign a business associate agreement, a BAA is the acronym there? And what options do I have if I need HIPAA compliant cloud financials? So if you are a finance leader, you know that moving to a new accounting system is a big undertaking, and if you're considering to move, you want to make sure that you get the answers to these questions. You may wonder what health information would be stored in an accounting system, but many healthcare organizations include patient names and financial records, which may subject their accounting system to HIPAA requirements. Even if your organization doesn't require a HIPAA-compliant financial system today, you may need one in the future. And that's why asking these 3 questions is so important. To give you comfort, Sage Intacct offers health compliance. We not only have the tools in place to meet HIPAA requirements, to audit that PHI data access, but it's also Sword and Shield certified for HIPAA compliance. And Sword and Shield now has been acquired by another company, so I point that out here in the slide. You should know that we will sign a business associate agreement, and that gives healthcare organizations confidence that your PHI data will be safeguarded. And the penalties for non-compliance with HIPAA are usually very steep, and they may even include criminal liability. So, part of what you want to do is you want to understand where your provider meets these requirements. If you're not familiar with Sword and Shield, just a little tagline there. Sword and Shield has been an expert in information security and compliance for over 20 years. They work closely with companies to make sure that all of their enterprise operations is tightly integrated, and that the areas of security and risk and compliance, all of that is being managed properly. Sword and Shield will partner with you. They've partnered with us to make sure that they are an integral part of your cybersecurity and making sure that you are compliant. So when we look at what's available in Sage Intacct, and this is a choice, so this is a configuration and subscription option, our advanced audit trail is going to meet the requirements to be able to tell if any of that health information has been accessed in any manner. Now, when I say in any manner, that means through the user interface, that means through reporting, that means through APIs. APIs are automated program interfaces. So when we're taking information from one solution into Intacct, we create what's called an API. And that's going to make sure that you are complying with those HIPAA audit requirements. If you implement what we call our advanced audit trail, we are going to sign a business associate agreement, that BAA. And the BAA clearly lays out each of our responsibilities in safeguarding your PHI. And with that BAA, you can be confident that we're taking all of the appropriate safeguards and that everything is in place to protect that PHI information. If you look at what we're doing with this advanced audit trail, we're really taking those audit capabilities one step further. So it's not just any audit trail. This is an audit trail that's going to track access to personal information that's stored in contact, vendor, and customer records. And then it's going to use that data to create reports. We track all of that access to that personal information and the personal health information in a way that enables it to be HIPAA compliant. So let's take a closer look at a few areas of security within Sage Intacct. I've moved into my dashboard as my controller just as a launch pad for what I'm going to show you today. So moving into our company area, there's a few places that I want to open up and enlighten for you. So if we look at our setup area and when we configure our company, there are some important information that we're going to fill out in that general information tab. But what you'll also notice is there is a tab here for security. So some of the things that you might be interested in knowing that you control when you set up your company. And first of all, let me just say that this is with or without the advanced audit trail. So this is just setting your company up and making sure that you have security set up the way that it needs to be. So things like what is the timeout or what are the timeout rules? So if you're not using your desktop, you're not in the solution, you're not moving, what's the timeout? What's the time frame for it to go back to timing out and you having to log back in? Any of your password information, and one of the things that I would point out here is that you can enforce where people log on from. So you can enforce IP address filters here. So that gives you another level of security. It's also tracking if people can sign on with just a single sign-on. So if you want the two-step authentication, you can set that up. So there are other pieces of security when you configure your company. Additionally, when we come over to the administrative side, we have some ways to set up our users as well. So when we set up a user, we have the ability to set up their user permissions and roles. So when we look at this, we can identify what role they're in, and then based on those different roles, we can look at the subscriptions that they have been added to, the groups that they're in. So this gives us a way to really permission and set up our users the way we want them to have access. When I set up a user, I can also point to what entities they have access to, what user departments they have access to or not. So this gives me that level to say, as the controller, I may be able to go across all of my entities. However, as a department manager, I may be specifically to one particular entity and maybe even one particular department. So again, making sure that your users are set up and that they have the right permissions. When we set up dashboards, if we come back to that controller dashboard, there is a way for you to set up permissions on the dashboard. So when we look here, we can set up certain individuals have access to this dashboard, and we can set up different groups of people. So we can globally just push this out and say everyone has access, or we can deny everyone and then come back and add individuals back in. So dashboards have the right to be permissioned. And then all of these reports that you see on the dashboard, when you set up those reports, you can set up those reports as permissioned reports as well. So that gives you the ability to say, I want to set up a report, however, I don't want everyone to have access to that report. And this, again, gives you that level of permissioning at the user level, at the dashboard level, and at the report level. You'll see here, again, I can use groups to do that across a group of folks and then come back and add individuals in. There is another area that I wanted to come back to, and that is in the company section, and that's a user access report. So as we look at this access report, we can tell who's been in the system, and you have some criteria that you can look at. You can narrow this report down, or you can run it across everything for all time purposes. But now you can see the user ID, the login, the result, when they were logged out, where that activity was coming from, how long that activity was. So that's a user access log. We also have an audit log. So that audit log is doing the same thing, except that it now is getting to the detail level of what is happening individually with when that user is in the system. And then lastly, I would point to, if we look at a financial report as an example, so coming back here to that financial report, we looked at permissioning. We could also look at an audit trail. So think about this. You have a financial report that you've created, and you go and execute this report, and it looks different. Something has been changed. The formatting has changed on it. And so now you have a full audit trail of everything that's happened, and you know exactly the user and the time and the date that that configuration, that formatting was changed. That's the same thing that we do when you look at accounts payable and you look at a vendor. There's also a way for you to look at what's going on with a vendor and making sure that you can see who's making those changes. So making sure that you are keeping track of any changes that have been made to a particular vendor or a particular customer. So that way, when you think about the security and the permissioning and all of the native control that is in the solution, and then if you are one of these healthcare organizations that needs to track against HIPAA, needs to track and make sure that you are compliant, that you are able to audit that PHI data, making sure that you have all that information, then you want to look at that advanced audit trail. So let's come back and talk a little bit about some of the resources that you might be interested in taking advantage of. As we looked at today, we really focused on looking at integrations, knowing that this is a best-in-class model, that we're going to integrate with other best-in-class applications to give you that full end-to-end solution. We also talked about security and permissioning, both from the user, the dashboard, and the reporting areas. And then we dug a little deeper into some of the HIPAA and PHI compliance, asking those three important questions, making sure that if you don't need it today, that you may need it in the future, and making sure that you are future-proofing yourself when you evaluate a solution. Today, you listened to one of 3 recorded assets. There are 2 other ones for the healthcare vertical. One is around visibility, the other around automation. I would encourage you to listen to those as well. If you want more information, absolutely jump on our website, sageintacct.com. On the website, you can find lots more information, customer testimonials. You can sign up for product tours. You can review product data sheets. You also can learn more about our healthcare vertical in different options of what we have. You also are more than welcome to call and contact us. We love to visit with you. We'd love to help you in your evaluation of healthcare software. Until next time, thank you so much. Bye now.